But this great nation, the greatest in all the world, is at the crossroads. Through a good friend, I have an item which came to me from a professional archaeologist who died last year in Rome. During a long lifetime of professional diggings, he had turned up hundreds of relics and readings from the ancient past. Always a passionately patriotic American, he didn't like the way things were going here in recent years, and in one of his last letters, he sent his anticipation of the epitaph that centuries from now some exploring archaeologist will find carved upon the unearthed tombstone of the United States. Here is the epitaph. Here lies the greatest civilization that the world has ever seen. It died at the peak of its tremendous power, which it refused to use in its own defense. Here lies the nation that wagered its fabulous wealth and strength upon the love of mankind, and in the process of the wager lost all three. Here lie the people who abandoned their priceless patriotic heritage of religious truth, and with it, their freedom and their will to live. Here lies the last best hope of earth. Here lies the United States of America. This may sound like a somber note on which to begin a talk to a group of dedicated, devoted Americans. Yet while most Americans continue to enjoy their comfortable complacency, the fact remains that the American way of life, with a spiritual foundation, which has given us the highest standard of living and more of the good things of life than any other civilization, is under powerful attack. The most prominent targets now under withering fire in this war against ourselves is the Ten Commandments, the Sermon on the Mount, the Constitution of the United States, the institution of private property, and the youth of America. Surely this is a time when consideration might well be given by the people of America to the important matter of citizenship responsibility in this blessed land. Paraphrasing Cicero, the great Roman, I tell you that freedom does not mean the freedom to exploit law in order to destroy it. It is not freedom which permits the Trojan horse to be wheeled within the gates and those within it to be heard in the name of tolerating a different point of view. He who is not for America and American law and American liberty is against America. He who plots against established authority and incites the populace to violence is against America. He cannot ride two horses at the same time. He cannot be for lawful ordinances and for an alien conspiracy at one and the same moment. One is an American or not an American. No people can maintain freedom unless their political institutions are founded upon faith in God and belief in the existence of moral law. God has endowed men with certain unalienable rights, and no legislature and no majority, however great, may morally limit or destroy these. The only way America can survive in this basically hostile and topsy-turvy world is to remain militarily, economically, politically, and morally strong and independent. We must put off our rose-colored glasses, quit repeating those soothing but entirely false statements about world unity and brotherhood, and look at the world as it is, not as we would like it to become. The inspired founding fathers recognized this. Governor Reagan of California put it this way. James Russell Lowell, as minister to England, was asked how long he thought the republic would endure. He answered that our republic would endure as long as the people keep the ideas of the men who founded it. And what were those ideas? The founding fathers, that little band of men so advanced beyond their time, the world has never seen their like since, created the government based on the theory that you and I have the God-given right and ability to determine our own destiny. Here took place the only revolution in all history that didn't just exchange one set of rules for another. They shaped a government, bound it with the Constitution, and said its only function was to be a watchdog over man's freedom. They never planned that it should be a cow to be milked. Here, for the first time, the individual genius of man, every man, was unleashed. 6% of the world's population on 7% of the earth's land surface created and owns more than 50% of the world's wealth. And that wealth has been distributed more widely among our people than in any other society since time began. There were no fringe benefits at Valley Forge. The West was one without an area redevelopment program. Now you and I, says the governor, must answer once again whether life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If we are not willing to pledge our lives, our efforts, and our secret honor, then we must one day spend our sunset years telling our children what it once was like in America when men were free. Dr. Robert Strauss Hoppe recently published a series of articles based on the observations of a number of historians: Spengler, de Reincourt, Ferrero, Gibbons, and some others. He told how Rome had known a pioneer beginning not unlike our own pioneer heritage, and then entered into 2 centuries of greatness, reaching its pinnacle in the second of those centuries, going into the decline and collapse in the third. Yet the sins of decay were becoming apparent in the latter years of the second century. It is written that there were vast increases in the number of the idle rich and the idle poor. The latter were put on a permanent dole, a welfare system not unlike our own. As this system became permanent, the recipients of public largesse increased in number. They organized into a political bloc with sizable power. They were not hesitant about making their demands known, nor was the government hesitant about agreeing to their demands, and with ever-increasing frequency. Would-be emperors catered to them. The great, solid middle class, Rome's strength then as ours is today, was taxed more and more to support a bureaucracy that kept growing larger and even more powerful. Surtaxes were imposed upon incomes to meet emergencies. The government engaged in deficit spending. The denarius, a silver coin similar to our $50, began to lose its silvery hue. It took on a copper color as the government reduced the silver content. Even then, Gresham's law was at work, because the real silver coin soon disappeared. It went into hiding. Military service was an obligation highly honored by the Romans. Indeed, a foreigner could win Roman citizenship simply by volunteering for service in the legions of Rome. But with increasing affluence and opulence, the young men of Rome began avoiding this service, finding excuses to remain in the soft and sordid life of the city. They took to using cosmetics and wearing feminine-like hairdos and garments, until it became difficult, the historians tell us, to tell the sexes apart. Among the teachers and scholars was a group called the Cynics, whose number let their hair and beards grow and who wore slovenly clothes and professed indifference to the worldly goods as they heaped scorn on what they called middle-class values. I'm still talking about Rome. The morals declined. It became unsafe to walk in the countryside or the city streets. Rioting was commonplace, and sometimes whole sections of towns and cities were burned. And all the time, the twin diseases of confiscatory taxation and creeping inflation were waiting to deliver the death blow. Then finally all these forces overcame the energy and ambition of the middle class. Rome fell. We are now approaching the end of our second